Hi, thank you very much, Tammy. Let me follow up on the Saturday meeting.
Yes.
Because when they left the last meetings, initially Ambassador Witkoff said that the U.S. would agree to no dismantling, but then it was clarified.
Would agree to what? I'm sorry.
To not require Iran to dismantle everything that they had. That if the Iranian position has been, according to my best understanding, that they want to retain enough for a peaceful nuclear power, for a civilian program with verification under the NPT, and are willing to give up what they had broken out to 60% in the last couple of years, alarming the U.S. and other allies and the rest of the world. But the position now is that they are saying, apparently, that they will not totally dismantle any nuclear program. Is the U.S. position that they have to dismantle even what could be verifiably proved to be a peaceful, low-level enrichment of nuclear power? And I had one other question to ask you.
Let me answer that one while it's fresh, and then I will definitely stay with you. I'm not going to. I won't scoot. I promise. But this is important because I understand it's an important question, but that is, of course, if we were going to be negotiating through our conversations or on television or anywhere else, we wouldn't need to be going to Rome on Saturday. Those are issues that I suppose some would want to have be in the media or discussed publicly, but that's not the nature of what the negotiations are. That's not a reflection.
But the U.S. position has been that they have to totally dismantle. Is that still the U.S. position? That's been the public position of the president.
Right. The bright red line is that Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. That is unacceptable. That's been President Trump's statement from the start. Now, one could ask if you need enriched uranium at 60% for a peaceful program. I'm not in those negotiations. I don't know what questions will be asked, but that is the bright red line. And that's going to be discussed in private between the people who are assigned to have that conversation. And if there's anything, we know it's what is acceptable and not acceptable to President Trump. And that position has been clear.
No, I understand that.
Yes, ma'am.
But at a much lower level, something 5% plus, the question was whether they have to give up all uranium, which has been the official
If we were in
US
Rome
position.
And having lunch, we could
be
have a
much
conversation.
happier.
I will certainly will not at all presume what diplomatic conversations or now what might be negotiations. I'm not going to presume about them or comment or have an opinion. You had a second part.
This is the second.
Yes, ma'am.
Second issue. There has been an attempted hijacking on an airplane internally in Belize, Tropic Air, and it involved an alleged hijacker who was a U.S. citizen who, according to law enforcement reports down there, was fatally shot on a confrontation with police. He's been identified as a U.S. citizen and a passport holder. Does the State Department have anything on this?
Not yet. We watched that unfold, I think, as everyone else did. Horrifying. We are grateful, I think all of us are, that did not turn into a mass casualty event with, I believe, over a dozen people on the plane. Clearly, we know a few details. We don't know much more. But as I was actually working on the briefing, that came across my timeline. It came across yours, and it's terrifying. But thank God we don't know about injuries or any other details. So I certainly can't comment. But it seems like there was obviously effective law enforcement on the ground, and that's all I have for you now. But obviously we're watching it as well.
President of Lebanon remarked yesterday that he intends to disarm Hezbollah by the end of the year, but he said it needs to be done on a bilateral basis without foreign interference or foreign pressure. I wanted to get states' reaction to that comment from the Lebanese president and ask how it might shape Deputy Special Envoy Ortegas' role going forward in dealing with the the Lebanon portfolio?
You always ask me things that I have opinions on. Would love to answer. But
I'm happy to hear your opinions.
But I can't as the State Department. I'm here to talk to you about what results of things, what we're intending, what we're doing. Certainly not speculating on what Morgan Ortagus will be able to do, what any special envoy will be able to do, what our response to another nation's leader will do, or what they are stating. What we do know, of course, and what is clear and remains clear, is that we want a peace in that entire region, obviously. We are dealing with the Iran threat, which, of course, includes Hezbollah, let alone Hamas, and the Houthis. This is an encompassing dynamic. So I leave that, for very good reason, to diplomats, and we know that they're addressing and aware of all the other aspects there. But we stand with Israel. This is not difficult, as is the reason why we're there and why we stand with Israel.
Second question. It's been 3 weeks now since Elise Stefanik withdrew from the nomination for UN ambassador.
Mm-hmm.
A draft came out, it was leaked, I guess, yesterday, but a draft is always a window into an administration's thinking, zeroing out funding.
If it's real.
If it
actually came from where they say it came from, but go ahead.
Zeroing out funding for the UN. So I'm trying to find out.
Yes.
Is there a correlation here between the lack of willingness to put forward another candidate and how long?
Oh my! The conversation. So over drinks at night with you must be amazing.
I look forward to that. But how long? With an interim ambassador in there, doesn't it do damage to drag out the process this long?
No. It's I think you've been around for a while. The budget process is a long one. We're also going through a process here of cutting down the budget because the deficit and the problems we've had, the way we've been spending is unsustainable. And so the president is making America great again by making sure she doesn't collapse economically. That's one of those standards. When it comes to, we've seen the process. I'm not going to speak to the choices President Trump has made or the nature of Congress and the issue of majorities and minorities, and the fact, though, that there is a great deal of talent that he has to choose from for the UN ambassador, for every other position here. It's people perhaps who haven't been in government, people who have been, people who've never been ambassadors, people who could be. It really opens up his point of view and who he knows and what he expects, like Steve Witkoff, Ambassador Witkoff, remarkable man, now playing an extraordinary role in trying to achieve world peace. That is maybe not something that was ever on his plate, but it's happening. I would say the talent that is here is more than enough for the president to choose another candidate. And secondly, that other story which we addressed on Tuesday about zeroing out NATO and the UN is absurd. The fact is the funding might look different, but it also will be more effective, more efficient funding that allow us perhaps to do even more as we deal with waste, fraud, and abuse. It is something you've heard before, but it's worth repeating. So then when we deal with NATO, Secretary Rubio has stated repeatedly we are committed to NATO, but one that is viable. And our love for NATO will be part of, exampled by our assisting them and encouraging them to become more viable and to be more financially independent. For the UN clearly needs a strong American voice, as we've seen that it can make a difference, and we are going to have one. President Trump will make that decision, and it will be a good one, of course.
On the case of Mohsen Madlani, the Columbia student whose visa has been revoked, the New York Times has a report that Secretary Rubio put out a memo saying that his activities could, quote, potentially undermine the Middle East peace process. Can you confirm that's a legitimate memo, and how would his activities undermine?
No, I won't. I won't confirm or discuss or deny about a memo like that. And when it comes to, as you know, all of these, and I know sometimes it's not exciting, but it's true, is that we do have a standard about not talking about individual visa dynamics, including with that individual. No, I won't talk about that.
For a moment.
Can you tell me where you're from, sir?
Tom Watkins with The National.
Excellent. Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much. President Trump on Monday said Tehran was tapping us along, suggesting a sense of impatience with the pace of talks. Can you talk about that, if there's a sense of time running out? And staying on Iran, several reports this week pertaining to US discussions with Yemeni factions or Yemeni forces about a potential land offensive against the Houthis. Can you tell us anything about those discussions?
Yes, I was asked, I believe, on Tuesday about the reports about what what's happening on the ground there versus the Houthis, which is not something we're involved in, of course, so I can't speak to what the plans are or what battle plans or attacks against the Houthis by other individuals or other governments or regimes.
So those discussions aren't taking place? Those conversations aren't happening?
The conversations about...
With the between the US and Yemeni factions that are against the Houthis?
Well, again, I just said how I'm the spokesperson for the U.S. State Department. I can't speak to and wouldn't about what Yemen may or may not be saying to the Houthis or anyone else. But your first question was about President Trump's, what you perceived as irritation about the pace of negotiations. Well, throughout this process, it's clear that they expect swift answers. Again, there will be no meetings about meetings. It will not be months or years for answers. I see you, sir. It's a matter of weeks, right? This is about life and death, and that's how we view it. I would say that, though, there remains a commitment. President Trump clearly, as the United States, could take many actions against people who threaten this country, and we choose not to. I think that speaks volumes. And the commitment to speak with entities that have threatened us repeatedly, that have an interest in threatening us, or who've done things that have been appalling. And yet, the first issue, in order to stop that, without resorting to more violence, which sometimes has had to happen, is to sit down and talk and find an answer. But it's not, again, none of these individuals are prepared to have it be that the answer is the search, right? That the effort and the thing that we do is the trying. It has to be a result. And I think that's what Trump is exhibiting here, is that it's not going to be about trying or meeting after meeting. There's answers that you can say yes or no to and get it done, and that's what he as a president expects. As a businessman, he expected that, and as a president, he expected it. Yes.
One follow-up on the Iran question. Assuming that these talks is going to take place on Saturday in Rome.
Yes.
What will the United States want to see that you can describe it as successful? So, as a measuring stick, you will say that we entered this negotiation and therefore we consider him successful. What exactly is
I don't make that decision about what that's going to be when it comes to the negotiators who are at that table. The president, again, has a bright line. They will not have a nuclear weapon. How that is determined is going to be the people at the table.
Okay.
All right.
One question
One
on
more.
Gaza quickly. You know, the situation for the children in Gaza is described as hell on earth. 7 weeks, no food is getting in. Do you think that Israel should allow humanitarian aid to get to women and children in Gaza, regardless if there is negotiation or progress with Hamas on the
Yes, there's, and it comes up all the time for a good reason, because it's a serious issue, and we all care about it. We also know that it is a zone where there's still fighting, where there's, we have just the other day, we had Hamas say that they suddenly don't know where Yadon Alexander is. It is a remarkable dynamic. It's horrible. Everything that we do, though, is to affect exactly what you mentioned, which is saving the lives of everyone, certainly men as well, and women and children. It is to stop this so that this is not an issue for people. That's why we do everything. To say that ask whether or not we're concerned during the process when ceasefires are broken or it becomes impossible, of course it's frustrating. It's not what any of us want, let alone the people who go there and are negotiating all the time. It is the thing that drives our desire for peace as human beings, and yet, you know, we can't quit because it gets stopped or frustrated, and it is a reminder about why that horrible situation has to end, why the Ukraine-Russia situation has to end, as we, are here in a comfortable environment and go home to our families. That seems to be a luxury these days, but to not take it for granted. So, of course, that is the goal, is to get that fixed, and it's a goal we work toward every